We continue now with Mulefes Sappirim. Everyone should have a schos of desire during these hard times. Let's see where we are. Here. We're still in the Zars, on Yom HaShishi, Zars that are related to the Isser of Kilayim, of combining forbidden mixtures of species, whether it's forbidden mixtures of seeds, animals, garments, wool and linen. Okay, so now we had a Zar yesterday in entry Lamites that says, since everything has its own spiritual root, to mix these things on earth will cause a collision of their spiritual roots, that each one has to stay in its lane to keep an orderly world. That was roughly the gist of the message we got from the Zohar in entry Lamites. And there's he brings another Zohar regarding Kilayim. Because of Sefer Dvarim Daf Pei Vav and Beis, that would be in Sefer Dvarim Zohar Dvarim Pei Vav and Beis, but Pasuk Lo Tizcha Karmacha Kilayim, right? The Pasuk in Kiseitse, do not plant your vineyard Kilayim. Because when HaKadosh created his world, it's called Davar Davar. He set up everything. I think Umanarem Sarim set up to them. Each one has its own ministering angel. Right, the whole Davar Yonik also Saramunov and everything, draws its sustenance, from the ministering angel that is appointed upon it. Vizel v'choklenar oseh, she gives, it's, the due portion to her maidservants. Right, so that's the the ministering angel gives it's whatever is under it, its sustenance. Nikres hukoti, right, and now that when it takes that chok, it's called hukati, right? My laws, the laws of God, right? So that's why it's called choklenaroseh. Choklenaroseh, it's like engraved. It's a law. Chok also means like engraved, right? It's a law, it's engraved. This is the way it has to be. It's a chok, right? So that's why the portion is called chok. So Hashem says, keeping that chok, that chok, this ministering angel gives sustenance. That's chok l'naroseha. It's called my law, and it's also called Chukos Shemayim, right? The laws of heaven, how the heavens are set up, right? How the cosmos is wired up. That's like we had this pasuk in Eov, quoted by the in the previous entry from Zohar. Right? Do you know the laws of heaven? Right, but there's the law of Choklanara said this ministering angel sustains this entity. So anyone who plants and mixes one species with another, you cause also their heavenly roots to be ripped up from their proper places, right? You're countering and you're disrupting the heavenly assembly. Zeramaz. Right, and this is right, in Parshas Vayikra, where the Isser of Kilayim is also mentioned. It says in the previous, the pasuk says, "As Chukos Hashro, keep my laws." Sadkol Tizra Kilayim. Keep my laws means also keep my cosmic laws in place. My cosmic engraving, keep it all in place. And Lo Sizra Karmacha Kilayim, Lo Sizra Kilayim, because that ruins. How the Rebbe Shem wired up the world. Because if you move the beneficiaries on earth, the, benefactors, the ministry of their tash will also be tugged out of whack, out of place. All right, so now we've, he moves on, Rashom Ghazi, and it's amazing how he just translates into very understandable Hebrew. So now he's bringing us Zohar's Malas Kolan Mitzvahs. Now, just talking about mitzvahs in general, right? Some Zohars about mitzvahs in general. Comes to Sefer Shemos Dav Kuf Samech Vav Amid Aleph, so in Zohar Chalak Beis, Dav Kuf Samech Vav Amid Aleph, it says, someone who strives, he's very conscientious in this world in doing his mitzvahs. Every mitzvah becomes a candle. Or every mitzvah becomes a candle, to light, to give off light in Olam Haba. Olam Haba is a world that's still under construction. It's built out of mitzvahs, and the mitzvahs illuminate. They are your light in Olam Haba. So there's every mitzvah is a candle, to light with it and illuminate in Olam Haba. Olam Haba is a world just built out of Torah and mitzvahs. So the mitzvah is the candle, that will be lit in Olam Haba. And anyone who strives in Torah, he makes the light that lights the candle. And that's what the pasuk says. And the pasuk says, "Kiner mitzvah," for a candle is a mitzvah. But Torah, and Torah is light. Right, so the mitzvah is the candle, and Torah is the light. And there's a famous Gemara in Saita, and the Nefesh Chaim talks about this at great length in Shar Daled, how the mitzvah is a base that could hold on, that could capture, but the light that it captures is light of Torah. So you need both. The light of Torah has no base to be, to capture it and to anchor it without a mitzvah, and the mitzvah with and the mitzvah without Torah is like a candle that's not lit. That's why a person needs both. So the big thesis of Nefesh Chaim is Mefurish over here in this Zohar. He probably brings this Zohar also. He brings a lot of Zohars over there in Shar Dalet, all regarding Torah, right? And therefore, a person has to be startled in Limud Torah and in the Ma'aseh Mitzvahs. Shetzarch never, because you need a candle and you need the light. Kia or no mo'il below ner. A light doesn't do you any good without a candle, because that light just dissipates. It doesn't catch on to anything. It doesn't get anchored without a candle. And also the candle without light, the candle doesn't, it captures the light and perpetuates light, but it itself doesn't shine. It needs to be lit. So the Torah lights the mitzvah, right? And you need both to have a sustained light. You need the Torah's the light, mitzvah's the candle. Okay. Members, another entry. Because say for Vayikra Daf Pei Gimel Base, so in Zorchel Gimel Pei Gimel Base. Misha also mitzvah achas, also mitzvah olam maram v'mesef ne'akel baruch v'omeres. Anyone who does a mitzvah, that mitzvah that he did goes up to heaven and stands before Hashem and says, Ribono Shalom, I have come from this man who created me. The from that day onwards makes that mitzvah, right, like a guardian, or a captain, someone to check in with the person, to do good to him, to do good to the person who created it. Now the Avera, same thing, but in reverse, right? Avera goes up, and attests before Hashem, hey, I was just made by that guy. He created me, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes the Avera, to be a prosecutor, or just be there to make your life miserable. You who created it, right? We make the life of the one who created it miserable. But if that person repents and the tshuva, annuls the avera, Kosh will take that avera away from the person. It won't, it'll disappear. It won't be there to constantly be, prosecuting and taunting the person. And it's what is the pshat. Gam Hashem he'avir chatoscha. Hashem, is over by, I believe that's by David and Melech. But Hashem now has removed your sin, meaning because your sin was really on top of you, constantly, trying to do you harm in one way or another. Now, because you repented, that sin is removed. Because it said Vayikodav Kuf Yud Gimel Amid Aleph, also it said Vayikodav Kuf Yud Gimel Amid Aleph, Kol Misha said mitzvahs v'shomram. Anyone who does mitzvahs and he guards them, I guess that means I'm going to guess that the double lashon over here is doing mitzvahs aseh and shomram to keep us not transgress the low saseh, and that's what shamor is always. He shomer pen va'al is all low saseh. So that's the double lashon is the positive commandments and keeping the negative commandments so you don't transgress them. Kilo says shame lema. It's like you're making a name for yourself in heaven. Is that making a name in heaven, making a divine name in heaven? Vusha kilu asa'ani. Right, and that's what Chazal say. It's a notion of all right. You do it as if you made me, because you make. We know God by name, by His divine name. So every mitzvah makes a divine name, right? V'zeh sod, and that's the secret of Vayas David Shem. David made a name. So since he, so it doesn't just mean he made a name for himself, but he made divine names. With all the mitzvahs that he did, he made a divine names mamish. Because of Sefer Shmos, Daf Pehei Omid Beis, or Sefer Shmos, Daf Pehei Omid Beis, Kikol mitzvahs heim tuluyos begufo yisbarach. As it were, again, let's be very careful over here. The Zohar itself, in many places, said God has no body and God doesn't even have a name. Everything we know about God is just by our perception. Which is the way He reveals Himself to us, which we know and we believe. And the Zohar is the first one to say it doesn't reflect what God really is. And we've discussed this so many times in all the new series that we're doing, be it this Sefer, be it the Reishis Chachma. All right, so God, His names are just what He does, and what He and He Himself is beyond that. Right now, what He does also in the Mara HaNevuah. Right, in a prophetic vision, those maisim will look like the types of organs that a man, that a man would use to do a parallel maisa like that. Strength will look like the right hand. To withhold will look like a left hand, because you have to. Your right hand's your stronger hand. You should do chesed. Mekarvim docha b'smol. You push off with the left hand. And it's not because in hand, just God's actions, God's actions that He projects on our scale, doesn't reflect what He could really do. It's all what He does on man's scale, and that's why man's called Tselem Elokim, because we're in the perfect image of how God runs the world. Elokim, as Nefesh Chaim explains, the kavanah of Shem Elokim is Baal Kol Zechor. Man, God is the master of all these cosmic forces. So Tselem Elokim, we're in the form of all those cosmic powers that Hashem is the master of, that make up our reality, and none of it reflects God's true greatness. He's beyond it all, right? So that's why in prophetic vision, Hashem, appears, or the divine powers appears in human form, because if you could look at reality from the outside. You look at reality from Ani Kalbin Chatzifin. But this dog is a good dog. It's not from the Sitra Achra. Anyway, if you look at reality in prophetic vision, it would look like a huge person, because all the cosmic forces, right, that which are emanations of Hashem, that from which reality is weaved. It's weaved together like in human form. Certain cosmic forces are like cosmic legs, cosmic arms, etc., etc., etc. And now, so the huge man, right, which is the universe itself, is called like the body of the king, because it relates to Hashem, because it's His actions, but His actions, which don't look like anything, but in a prophetic vision, they would get a mashal that looks like a person, and therefore would be called Gufa de Malka, right? I hope this is clear. God Himself has no body. God Himself has no spheres either, and no midas either. These are all projected energies on our scale. Doesn't reflect what He really is, even the Ein Sof. It's just a projected energy, that doesn't reflect what he is. And these projected energies in prophetic vision appear, like body parts, but it's just a muscle to understand these colors, because these things would do the types of things that this organ man would do, right? Right. Okay, and it's just, and also even how these cosmic forces look like a human form. They don't really look like that. It's just in prophetic vision. The Navi is shown a metaphor for these cosmic forces. They are metaphors that are created in the mind of the Navi through the lens called, Tmunas Hashem, which is the midah of Malchus, the Shechina. We spoke about this extensively in Reishis Chachma. So it will cause, these cosmic forces that make up our reality, that, these cosmic Hashem is mashpia, that make up our reality. It would look like a body, and each force will look like a body part, but it's all in prophetic vision. It's a mushal that's formed in the Navi's mind, and the Navi knows that. He knows that Biyad Nevi'im Adame, in Yad Nevi'im, which is Malchus, Adame, it's a dimyan. It's just something that's domeh. So it's supposed to be a mushal. It's not he understands it's just a mushal. It's the mara. It's not the pit. And you notice that there's a pisron to the mara. Right, the Ram writes about this extensively in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah. Okay, but this thing that the Navi sees, which looks like a body in prophetic vision, in itself has no form. And it itself also doesn't even reflect God's real ability. It's just what Hashem is projecting to weave our reality as we know it. And that's why we're B'Tselem Kim. We're a microcosm of the way Hashem runs the world, which doesn't reflect what Hashem could really do. It's just how he runs the world. These are the kochos that he is owner of it. And we're B'Tselem Kim. Right? So, but the mitzvahs fix reality, and that's why the famous word, Taryag mitzvahs, Keneged Ramache Vorim, Shesagidim. It just like it fixes itself, it fixes reality that, as it were, runs parallel to the human form. And of course, the reality itself doesn't look like anything. But since it runs parallel to human form, that's why the Nevi'im, when they see it, B'mar Nevuah, it looks like a person. And it's called Gufa de Malka, the body of the king, because the world is God's Malchus. The world is God's Malchus. That's why it's called, Gufa de Malka, but God himself doesn't have a body. It's called the body of the king because it's Hashem's kingdom. All right, but it's body of the king, but not the Ein Sof, and so God himself is above Ein Sof also. He himself, it's above Ein Sof, we don't even talk about. Okay. All right, with that introduction, I probably overstated the case, but want to make sure that this is understood. So, because of Sefer Shmos, so if what's written Sefer Shmos, Staff Pei Amud Beis, all the mitzvahs are totally in Hashem's body. Hashem doesn't have a body. It means the body that is seen in prophetic vision, which is, and even and which it itself doesn't look like anything. It's only prophetic vision that it looks like a body, and it's called God's body. So this is the body Hashem creates. It's his malchus, right? It's really the lashon of the Zohar. I do believe, just he translated very loosely, is Gufa de Malka, the body of the king, is the lashon Zohar, and it is the shape of God's kingdom, which is all the forces that Hashem emanates, because the whole world is his kingdom, and vice versa. We know him through the Bria. We know him by what he has created. That's why it's called Gufa de Malka. See, all the mitzvahs run parallel to it, like the famous word, like we said, Ramache Vorm, Shesagidim, Ramachim Saseh, Shesam Mitzvahs Lo Saseh, and there's the cosmic Ramache Vorm and the cosmic Shesagidim, and that's why we're B'Tselem Elokim. We are like a miniature model. And that's why with our Targum mitzvahs, we don't just fix our whole being, we fix the whole cosmos. The cosmos, which is called Gufo, but cosmos, not God himself. Right? So Yesh Barosh, Yesh Ba'ayin, Yesh Ba'oz, it goes by. So now there are mitzvahs that pertain to the head, there are mitzvahs that pertain to the eyes, as it pertains to the ears, and that's what it fixes in us, and that's what it fixes in the world, in the cosmos. the cosmic head, the cosmic eye, the cosmic ear, which is the Bria, not the Baira, right? There's no mitzvah outside of this cosmic body. Misha Posheh, but Torah Posheh is also therefore anyone who is negligent, or rebels in mitzvahs of Torah. He is negligent or he's rebelling against God himself, because the Bria is God's kingdom, and the Bria is how we know him. We know him by what he creates and what he administers. That's how we know him. Those are all the divine names. Lefi Ma'asani Nikra, he's called by his actions, right? So that's as best as we know God. So to be bad in mitzvahs is to be pogam the world, which is how Hashem wants to reveal himself to us. Reveal himself by what he does. That's called the body, right? Zeksiv. And that's why the Navi says, Poshim be mamish. Hashem says also love. I think it's what we read on the Haftarah for Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. Is that what it is? Yeah. So they're going to take out and see the carcasses of people that were Poshea B, that were negligent or rebellious against me. Be mamish. Right? Literally, Hashem takes it personally, as if because you ruined his world. That is his representation. So he takes it personally, right? So it's kilu bi mamish, right? The guf hamelech, that is a representation of he who has no form, and even that guf hamelech has no form. It just appears as a guf in the prophetic vision. And not only that, so now because it runs parallel to the mitzvahs, the setup of mitzvahs is perfectly parallel to the body, and our bodies, being B'Tselem Elokim, are perfectly parallel to the cosmic forces, except our bodies are physical, the cosmic forces aren't. But in prophetic vision, those cosmic forces would appear like the body parts that they're parallel to. So now and it's interesting, the Mishnah Berurah in the Haftarah Shabbos says this, that by Tchias HaMesim we're going to know what every Avera you did, because initially we get out of the grave with whatever blemishes we had in our lifetime, and then we get healed. So initially we get our grave, one's going to see where you sinned, because the organ that's parallel to that mitzvah which you were negligent in is going to be deficient. It's going to be blemished. So he just says, but what about if you didn't keep Shabbos? It's like coming out of the grave without a head or a heart. You can't live, ever take a look? It's pretty frightening, the outcome of the Mishnah Berurah Shabbos, right? But we're saying over here that in the future we're also going to see cosmically in the cosmos that's called Gufo Shel Melech. We'll see, just like the mitzvah's Pogea and as a Pgam, right, in a certain organ in the person. We're also going to see how the Averis of the Rishaim were Pogem cosmically in the cosmic organs. I mean, they only look like organs in prophetic vision. They themselves are ruchnis. They don't look like anything. And even in their ruchnis form, they're not God himself. It's what God projects. So, his divine names, his divine energies from which the reality is weaved from, right? Because that's one of the Makom himself shows their sins in the exact, for lack of a word, cosmic body part, which is not really a body. It only looks like a body, exactly where they sin. Look at the cosmic in that cosmic organ, right? That's also what the Pshat in the Pasuk in Eov, even the heaven shows your sin, because in these heavenly forces that in prophetic vision look like a body, you'll see, where the organ is as it were blemished because of the mitzvah, it's parallel to that organ, or the avera that's parallel to that organ was transgressed or not fulfilled, and hence that blemish in the what appears in prophetic vision in that cosmic organ. And therefore, and that's so you're right. That's and then the earth will stand up against him. After the heaven shows, where the sinner was pagan. I trust Rosh Shlomo Al-Ghazi that if he chose such a Zohar, everyone could understand it and not be chas v'shalom come to any shibush and emuna because of it. We trust his discretion if he chose this Zohar to be revealed. And it must be that it could be explained well enough that in no way are you pogea in the emuna of one of the Yud Gimel Ikrim that the Zohar itself writes is one of the Ikra emuna, right? That Hashem has no body or any form whatsoever. Okay, fine. I hope we explained it well enough. And okay, we are going to stop here because this anyway ends the Zohars they brought regarding mitzvahs in general. The next entry is going to be about Eglah Rufa, right? With a calf that's brought and whose neck is broken when we find a murder victim between the cities and we don't know who the killer really was, okay, and we'll pick it up from then. There, next time we learn. Okay, have a good evening, everyone.